Welcome back to Gambling Recovery, Taking Back Your Life. I'm your host, Jimmy M. This is a podcast where we have real and honest conversations about gambling addiction, recovery, and our journey to rebuilding ourselves. If you're struggling in recovery or just looking to understand this addiction better, you're in the right place. Today's guest is Daniel Bullen, host of the Addicted Recovery Show, a podcast that's reaching people all over the world through honest conversations about gambling addiction, recovery, and what life can look like after stopping. For more than 20 years, gambling controlled Daniel's life, the losses, the lies, the shame, and the never-ending cycle. Daniel's journey is one of incredible resilience. Not only did he overcome a gambling addiction that lasted over 2 decades, but he also survived a devastating car accident that he was incredibly fortunate to survive. That experience gave him an even deeper appreciation for life and strengthened his passion for helping others. Daniel and I have built a great friendship through this work. We've had the privilege of appearing on each other's podcasts, and I have a tremendous amount of respect of the impact he's making. Together, we're driven by the same mission to reduce shame, spread hope, and let people know they're never alone in this battle. Welcome, Daniel. I appreciate you coming on the podcast today. I know a few weeks ago we did. I was on your podcast, so we're doing you today on mine, and I appreciate you being here today and kind of get started on your story and where it began for you.
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. You're doing amazing work, and it's a privilege to be on and to be able to share my story. So I'm originally from Liverpool, England. I actually live in Australia now, but most of my gambling happened back home. I moved here when I was 28 years old, but my gambling started very young. Started on slot machines, fruit machines, when I was about 10, 11. However, about 6 months ago, I another memory popped into my head, and I realized my gambling actually started in single digits before then. So a social club we used to go to had this big wooden table. It was like the size of a poker table, but it was a greyhound track. And then there was these little wooden greyhounds, and we'd have 2 dices, and we'd roll the 2 dice. And basically one of the dice was which number dog the move would go for, and the other dice was how many moves it would make. And obviously you could place a bet on it first. Number 6 would have been higher odds because it had more squares to go around. But I remember doing that in single digits, and I just remember loving it. I was like 8 or 9 years old, and I remember being like just obsessed with it straight away. Every Sunday we'd go to social club because I've got such a big family. Like my mum is one of 8 children, my dad's 1 of 9, so there was always cousins there. But I just look forward to it. I just remember being like, I'd be thinking about it during the week. And that memory only come back to me about 6 months ago, 8 months ago. So I think it even started younger than the actual slot machines. But I just remember an obsession from very young.
And then where did it take you from there after that?
So the slots, funny enough, my granddad on my mum's side, he was a bookie, an illegal bookie. So every time he'd walk past those slot machines, me and my cousins would be there playing. And we'd all like turn around and pretend that we weren't playing. And he'd always like shout at us and be like, the house always wins. There's only one winner in this game. And that would be enough for my cousins. They'd get that telling off and they'd leave. Whereas I'd wait for my granddad to leave and I'd go straight back on there. And I could not get enough of those fruit machines. I was obsessed with them. And then my mum and dad split up when I was 12 or 13 years old. So my dad would come down and pick me and my nephew up every Saturday, and we'd spend the day together. And we'd literally go to an arcade. We'd go to a place called New Brighton, which is just outside of my home city, my hometown. And for 4 hours, 5 hours, we'd just be playing fruit machines again. Like it was only 5p spins, like £5 jackpots. It was legal for kids to play those machines. But again, it was just like I'd lose my £5 that my dad had given me, and then I'd be pestering my dad. Can I have £5 more? Can I have £5 more? And again, just that obsession was there from very young. Once it progressed out of slots, at 14 years old, I remember a horse race. So my nephew that I just mentioned, his name is George. There was a horse called Chief Dan George. So my whole family bet on it due to me and my nephew. And we're all sitting in my mum's living room, and this horse is a mile back. Like it's literally out. It's dead and buried. And I remember hearing afterwards the in-running odds on Betfair actually went out to 999 to 1. That's how far back it was. Like it was finished. The jockey was pumping and it was going nowhere. All of a sudden, jockey started to bring it to life and it started catching up, but it was still that far back that we're like, no, there's no way it's coming through. Unbelievable. It came through and won the race. Like, could not believe it. It was down and out, came back and won. I just remember the whole family like jumping up for joy. my mum and dad had split up a year or two before. They were there like that. It was like the whole family was reunited again. And I've always like remembered that euphoria. I couldn't even tell you how much I had on it. I was only 14, 15. I couldn't tell you how much I won, but it was just that feeling of all that connection, like everybody enjoying it together. That has always stuck out with me as like, I call that like my first big memorable win. And then a year later, I had more of a individual one. I placed a £1 football accumulator, so a parlay, and it was 4 teams. 2 of the teams were wins, 2 of them were draws. And the 2 wins were in, and there was about 5 minutes left in the game, in the other 2 games. And they're both either winning or losing. Basically, I need a goal in both of those games. One of those games comes in about the 87th, 89th minute. So that pulls back to 1-1 or 2-2, whatever it was. I'm just waiting on that last game. If that last game comes in, I'm quids in, I've won. And the 93rd minute, I still remember it, 25 years ago, the 93rd minute, Coventry City versus Wolverhampton Wanderers, 2-2. They scored in 3 minutes into stoppage time, pulled it to a draw. I won £140, which doesn't sound like much, but at 15 years old, I'd never seen that much money before. And it was the fact I was down and out. That bet was finished. I had 10 seconds left and it came in. It was the same as the horse bet that I just mentioned. It come in right at the end, and that sheer coming back from the dead. It was just, but this time I actually got the money. Like, I remember the win. I remember being amazed by how much money I'd made, and sort of thinking along the lines of like, you know what, I can actually make money from this. I can like do this professionally. And I think at 15 years old, I was already set on becoming an inverted commas, a professional gambler. So yeah, those 2 early wins proper stick out in my mind.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of gambling stories, including myself. A lot of them are in like gambling. It starts off with like friends hanging out with friends, big group of friends. Everyone's doing it. For you, it kind of started out with like a big group of family members gambling, huh?
Yeah, definitely. And then I like that horse bet race. That was memorable because of the connection with everyone there. However, the football bet was sort of when the isolation began. That was like the first one where I've done it by myself, and that oh my god, like that feeling of being a little bit naughty because I'm 15, I'm not supposed to be gambling, but I was able to get that bet on. A year later was like the first time it took a real dark turn. So I got into poker. I used to play poker online on an online platform. I won't mention the name. I was 16 years old. I always remember the exchange rate because we had to play in American dollars. The exchange rate was £1 to $2. So I always remember it was easy for me to work out how much I was gambling. And my mum's going to bed, and I've asked her, can I use your card? Can I deposit £10, please, and play some poker? And she's like, yep, no problem. Like, obviously, I'm 16 years old. It doesn't look like I've got a problem. They don't know to the extent of my obsession with gambling at this point. So my mum gives me a card to place £10. Just as I deposit, that little checkbox next to it saying, remember this card, I've ticked that little checkbox. Now, I'm pretty sure my thoughts were just, you know what, in a week later, when I use my mum's card again, it's going to be handy to just have this card like saved. I've got no ill intention at this point, but I remember clicking that tick box. I used that £10. I can't remember. I obviously lose it. I don't know how quick or how long it lasted. And I just had that thought of, you know what, I'll put £10 more in. My mum won't mind. I'll put another £10 and it'll be okay. By the time my mum woke up the next morning, I was still sitting there playing. I had to like jump back into bed and pretend that I wasn't playing. I'd deposited £1,400 of her money without her knowing. Obviously, she'd slept through it, and I was supposed to put £10 in, and I was just losing, chasing, deposit. Once again, like I remember at one point it was like, right, I'm that deep in now that I'm going to get in trouble either way, but at least I can put the money back and sort of salvage some of that trouble. So it's just, I need to win it back. I need to win it back until the point when it's like card declined. And I'm just like, oh shit, like I can't get my way out of it now. Didn't even mention it. Just the fear of like the trouble that I'm going to get in. I just didn't say anything. And that was sort of a pattern of my behavior for the next 20 years. Just try and ignore it till it goes away. About 3 days later, I'm sitting on the couch watching the TV. My mum comes down to me. She's got a letter in her hand. And she just says, the internet provider, which was called FreeServe at the time, she says, the internet provider have sent me a letter saying they've been unable to take the fee out this month. Have you any idea why? And I just said, like, Mum, I've got something to tell you. And I told her what I'd done. And I just remember her look of like shock. She didn't say anything. She was just like frozen. And then she sort of got up and walked out the room. And again, that was sort of a pattern of the consequences of my behavior. My mum was never one for punishment. She was never good with negative emotions. So I wouldn't get told off. Like it'd sort of my mum would be angry with me for a day or two. She wouldn't speak to me. And then it'd just sort of be brushed under the rug. So it was never quite addressed. Like it's sort of like there was no consequences. I never had to pay her back. I was upset that I'd upset my mum for a few days and she was angry with me, but there was just no repercussions to my actions, if you like. And that was still 16 years old. It was already developing that bad.
Where was your father at this time?
So my mum and dad had split up, hadn't they, a few years
Oh,
before.
okay.
So my dad moved to Manchester, a city about 30 minutes away from Liverpool. But yeah, just like no repercussions, no punishment.
And then did she just figure it out on her own? She had to pay the debt, or she had to put money in the account?
I couldn't even tell you. I presume so. Like I say, I was just not in on it at all. 18 years old, as soon as I could get money for myself, I remember applying for 5 credit cards on my 18th birthday and getting approved for all 5 of them. At this point, I'd been playing poker online, but I'd started doing sports betting online as well. And now, because I was 18, I could go to casinos. So those 5 credit cards didn't last long. But then, like I say, it was just, I'd be getting debt letters. I'd be getting chased up all the time for them. It was always just ignore it till it goes away. The letters just ripped them up. Any phone, like out of every 10 phone calls to my phone, I'd probably answer one of them because the other 9 would be debt collectors or would be banks or whoever I owed money to. And I just wouldn't be open to speaking to them. It was always just ignore it till it goes away. I could never face up to my problems. It was always sort of hiding behind something.
At this point, did you have any realization that you had a problem?
No, like it still seems like a hobby. Like it's crazy. I've just stolen money from my mum at 16 years old. But again, looking back at it, even now to this, I'm like, it was from my mum, so it's not really stealing, is it? But if it is, it's stealing. I stole because like I see it as my mum's money. It's like, oh, it's within the family, so it was okay. Like I still struggle with that now. I'm like, I have to convince myself that was stealing. That wasn't just borrowing money. My poor mum got there's a few more times that we'll get to that my poor mum's had to deal with that. But yeah, like because it wasn't stealing from somebody, because I didn't take somebody else's card, because I was given the card, there's like so much justification going on in my head that I'm like, no, it's still okay. Those 5 credit cards all maxed out, but it's still okay. At 19, I believe this next win I'm going to tell you about, I believe this is what I was chasing for the following 15, 16 years after that. I'm playing roulette online on again on a platform, and I saw roulette was my game at this point, and I had 1,000,001. I knew strategies didn't exist. I knew you couldn't beat the system, but the way I looked at it was, whatever, depending on what number or color or whether it was a high or low number, the previous one, that would determine what I'm going to bet on next. And I would stick to that religiously because if I didn't do that, I'd beat myself up that, oh my God, it was a color. I should have done the same color because look, the same color's coming. So I had many of those strategies, but it wasn't that it wasn't that I felt like I had an advantage and I was outsmarting the game. It's just that way I could look at I could get to a casino, look at the last 10 numbers, and I know where I would have won and where I would have lost because I knew exactly what I would have bet on based on the previous number. So one thing I did always do, I just did the same color. So if it was 20 black, I'd bet black again. And I'd just keep doing that until I'd just keep doubling up until I've hit the max. And then I'd just keep doing it until I'd had enough. And I'd had a good run this session. And I'm up to £1,000 a spin. So that's the max I could do on the table. I had a run of 12 consecutive blacks. So obviously I've missed the first one, but I've then hit the next 11 at £1,000. So I've made £11,000 just on that run. I don't know if I'd earned a little bit before that or I'd earned a little bit after that, but basically I got to £20,000. So this is 19 years old. At this point, just for a bit of context, I'm making roughly £10,500 a year in salary in the gym that I'm working in. So I've basically just won 2 years' salary in a couple of hours. I just remember sitting there and I was thinking of the holiday that I was going to take my girlfriend on. I didn't have my driver's license yet, so I was going to do a crash course where I can get my license in like 3 days. The new car that I was going to buy, I was like, oh my God, like this was it. All that I've just told you about from like 8, 9, 10, 11 years old up until 19, it all finally came to where it was supposed to come. It finally, like I've made that money. I've hit that big win. I'd had the account from younger than 18, so like the account wasn't verified. And bear in mind, this is like 15, 16 years ago, so the internet wasn't quite what it is today. I had to sort of jump through a few loopholes to withdraw it. And basically, I ended up having to use PayPal. So every day I'm waking up, refresh balance. Oh, it's not there. Next day, refresh balance. It's not there. On this one Thursday, I've woke up. So I'm working in the gym at this point. I start work at 2 o'clock that day. I'm in the gym. I wake up, refresh balance. Oh my God, it's there. It's like, I've never seen that much money in my bank account. Like, yes, look at it. My life is complete. Like I'm going to retire and everything. It's about 10 a.m. when I've found this, that I've seen that the money is in my account. Bear in mind, I'm going to work at 2. I just have to force, you know what? Like I started with, I can't remember how much I started with. Maybe I started with like £200 and I turned it into £20,000. Imagine what's going to happen if I start with £20,000. Like, what can I turn that into? So go on, I'll have a little look on roulette. I'll see if my luck's still in. I'll have a little play before I go to work. By the time I went to work at 2 o'clock that day, gone. Everything within 4 hours, like everything straight back. And just that stomach sinking feeling as I'm sitting on the bus, like struggling for £2 bus fare. I had to borrow like £2 off my mum to get the bus to work. And I'm just like, what's just happened? Where has that money gone? And there's one memory that always sticks out. I've got to work and Graham, one of the older members, come in and he's like, how you doing? And he's the only person in the world that knew about this for like 15 years until I told people a year or two ago. I said, I just lost £20,000 online on roulette. And he just went, whoa, that's a lot of bread, and walked off. So obviously I'm like a 19-year-old kid. He's obviously thinking like, I don't know what he's talking about. He must be playing with fictional money or something like that. There's no way he's just had £20,000. And I just didn't tell anyone about it. That isolation has started straight away. I've just bottled up all that despair, all that pain, all that misery of losing that money. And I've just gone on with my life like nothing's happened. So straight already, 19 years old, the isolation, the secret of the unable to stop, the chasing losses, everything is already there, Jimmy, at 19 years old.
Did anybody in your life, your girlfriend, your parents, siblings, cousins, did anybody notice a problem with you with gambling at this point? Anybody say anything to you or?
I'd get like he loves a bet, doesn't he? Our Dan loves a bet. I think I was able to always hide those sort of debt letters. And obviously the phone calls were only coming to my phone. So nobody else was seeing how bad it was. Like everybody knew I loved to gamble. I loved to bet. Nobody knew about the debts. Nobody knew about that win. Like, yeah, nah, I don't think they can see how, I'm going to use the word how passionate I am with it, but they can see I'm obsessed with it. But obviously I'm working in a gym. I'm making £10,000 a year. They're obviously not worried about me getting loans or credit cards or anything like that. They just think I've got no responsibilities. My phone bill was in my sister's name. I'm still living at home. Like I said, I'm getting the bus. I'm not even driving. So I didn't need money. The only money I needed was for the bus. And I'd literally ask my mum every morning, leave £2 on the stairs before you go to work for my bus fare. Like I'd never have money, but I don't think the penny dropped for anyone, no. But and there's a question in the Gamblers Anonymous book, and it was, did you gamble to escape trouble, worry, boredom, loneliness, or loss? At that point, I'm thinking I'm just chasing that win, that win again that's come. It's possible to win that life-changing money. I've just done it. it's gonna happen again. But as I looked back, once I sort of came out the other side and looked back, I can see I couldn't deal with negative emotions. I was such a people pleaser, and then my therapist helped me like piece together what would happen. I'd people please, like I'd say yes to somebody in work when I'd want to say no. Just that little seed of resentment would build up inside of me. I'd hate myself. I'd feel like a coward, and then to escape that, I'd go and gamble at the earliest opportunity. I remember my girlfriend at the time had gone to university in another city, so it was like a 2 hour bus ride for me. Again, because I wasn't driving, I used to have to get this 2 hour bus ride for like £4 or £5. I'd be getting the cheap option for everything. And I'm 22 years old. We've been going out for about 2 years, 3 years. We've been dating. I go up there. I get up there late one night, and I think I'd had a win, so I had a bit of money in my pocket. And I've got up there, and she's actually split up with me. And I've pulled this money out of my pocket, and I was like, I was coming here to book a holiday. Look at all this money that I've saved. Again, just feeding her lies. It was actually a win from earlier that day. And I'm like, I was coming, all this money I've saved, I was coming to book a holiday for me and you. Never mind, forget it. There was a casino just down the road. I've literally gone straight to the casino, done my brains in, blew all that money. At that point, I haven't even got enough money. I haven't got any money to buy a coach ticket back home. So I have to go back to my now ex-girlfriend's university halls and ask her, can I please sleep on your floor for the night? Because like, obviously I didn't tell her why. I just said, my coach, I couldn't get a coach for the night. It's booked for tomorrow. Can I please sleep on your floor? So it's already causing like that embarrassment and that shame that I've got to go back to my girlfriend, my ex-girlfriend who's just split up with me, and ask if I can sleep on her floor. That's like, just that wouldn't even come into my mind when I'm gambling. That if I lose this money, I'm going to have to go and do that. No, in my head, it's like, just keep going. Eventually, it's going to come good like it did that time when you were 19. You won all that money. Just keep pummeling your money into it until those wins start coming. And then you'll get that big money again and you can stop. Unfortunately, never, ever able to stop.
So how'd you get home?
I've literally phoned my mum the next day. And like, I love my mum unconditionally. She's the best person in my world. Unfortunately, like she, like I say, she's just not aware of it, but she enabled me the whole way throughout my addiction, because her unconditional love for me, she wouldn't want to see me suffer. Like if like I say, I wasn't good with negative emotions. My mum always sort of, her thing was always, if I was down, it was like, oh, don't be sad. It's okay, be happy. And she'd try and make me happy. So it was sort of ingrained in me that it's not okay to be sad. It's not okay to be down. So that's why I couldn't deal with those negative emotions. So if I needed money, she'd give me. Like my poor mum was working full time and trying to support me at the same time. My older brother and sister were 7 years and 10 years older than me, so they'd moved out, but my mum was still had a bit of a tough life once my mum and dad split up. Yet she'd still always sort of be there for me and provide for me. But within like those next 2 years, I'd like failed my driving test, straight to the casino. I believe I'd saved up a bit of money for a car. I don't think it was a win. I think I must have had a little bit of abstinence. And as soon as I failed my driving test, straight to casino that night and blew all that money that I'd saved up. I still don't think it's my fault I failed, by the way, just on a side note. I speeded on my driving test. I'm the only person I've ever known to speed. I didn't know it was a 20-mile-an-hour zone, and I got up to 25, and my instructor informed me it's 20. I slowed back down, and yeah, she failed me because of that. I couldn't believe it. But that's not why we're here. It's for me to whinge about my driving. We'll get into that later. There's a few more of them later on. I found this dodgy loan company. I remember this dodgy loan company. I think I was about 24, 25, and it was within my city. It was called Everyday Loans. And I'd been approved for a loan. And they've said to me, like, you need to bring your bank statements in person, and then we'll get it all signed off. So obviously my bank statements is just like Ladbrokes, Bet365. It's like ding, 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 ding. I've gone in, like I keep saying, the internet wasn't quite what it was back in the day. I'm showing our age here, Jimmy. I took it into Paint, and I just modified it in Paint. I'd hide the transactions. I'd turn the pluses, the minuses into pluses. I took it in, and it all got approved. I couldn't believe it. I got this loan. Couldn't tell you how long it lasted. It wasn't long before they were calling me. And this one day, they've rocked up at my mum's front door. So my dad's with me in the house, and two of their workers have rocked up, like makeshift bailiffs, to come and collect some of the debt. And my dad's like, "What's this?" And I'm like, Dad, go back inside, go back inside. I'll sort this. And my dad's like, no, what's this? This like, and my dad obviously gets involved at this point. Again, I couldn't tell you how the loan was paid back. Nothing to do with me. My mum and dad took over, and again, just no consequences to my actions. But at this point, it was obviously it was becoming more apparent that something was going on under the surface.
Just really quick, you talk about your mother a lot. What, if you don't mind me asking, what was your relationship with your father? I know he wasn't. You were staying with your mother, and your father was, I think you said, around 30 minutes away. What was your relationship like with your father at that time?
It was really good. He'd come down every Saturday and spend the sort of the day with me because I was the youngest out of the three kids. Like I just mentioned, my sister and brother were older. He always sort of I was the bridge between my dad coming down and then we'd arrange something to do as a family, as like my dad, my brother, and my sister. But yeah, no, my relationship was dead strong. He'd call me one or two times through the week. I always justified it by saying, because when just before my mum and dad split up, my dad worked nights, so I'd very rarely see him. Like he'd be asleep in the morning when I'd go to school. I'd get home from school, he wouldn't be there. If I was lucky, if I was awake late at night, I'd hear him come in and I'd see him then. But very rarely did I see him. I only saw him on the weekends. But like growing up as a kid, he was my hero. I was always in the garden with him, like cutting worms up to put in the fish tank. He's an avid gardener. I was always in the garden doing stuff with him, building gazebos out the back and everything. So at the time, my brother used to say to me, like at this point, once the gambling's become apparent that I've got a problem with it, my brother used to say, "Mum and Dad splitting up's had a really big effect on you, and I believe that's why you gamble." And I used to blow him off. I'd be like, "What are you talking about?" I wouldn't see my dad all week because he was working nights. I wouldn't see him all week. I see him more now that they split up because now he like makes the effort to come down on the weekend. I'd always blow it off and justify it because I loved my dad. I still do love my dad unconditionally. So I'd always try and defend him. Later in life, I did start to piece it together that I think that was like the night that they split up. So I've come out the kitchen and I remember the biscuit that I'm eating. I'm eating a malted milk biscuit. It was my favorite biscuit. I'm chewing around the edges of the biscuit and I walk into the dining room and there's a couch at one end of the room, a couch at the other end of the room. My mum and dad are sitting on opposite couches, and they say like, "Can come and sit down for a minute?" So I sit down next to my dad, and they tell me like my dad's leaving, and I'm that uncomfortable with negative emotions. Like I just don't know how to respond to it. I just go, "Okay," and I carry on eating my biscuit, and I walk out the room. Like my world has just been crushed. Like I say, my dad was my hero growing up. My world's just been absolutely smashed to pieces. And like, I'm not even comfortable enough to tell my mum and dad how unhappy I am or how disgruntled I am because I don't know how to show negative emotions. I just don't believe it's okay to do it. I just go, okay, no problem. All right. And I go upstairs to play on my computer. And my mum comes up about, I couldn't say half an hour later maybe. And she's like, "Are you okay?" And like she can see tears in my eyes. And she goes like, I know, he's left me too." And I just scream at my mum. I'm like, "Get away, get away, get out. I just want to play on my computer. Just leave me alone." And my mum like walks out the room for fear of upsetting me. And I just carry on playing on the computer. So that escape is already there, just not processing anything, not dealing with anything, not talking about anything. And honestly, it was like it was never spoken about. It was like I was never sat down and explained how it just sort of just happened, and then I'd see my dad every Saturday from then on out. So it was like a big part of my upbringing where things were just as it is with many families, like it's just things are swept under the rug, they're not spoken about. They're just sort of brushed to one side and life carries on. So like yeah, I'd justify it that I see him more now that they've split up. And then because we'd go and gamble every Saturday when my dad would come down, I think I had that emotional pull to the gambling as well, where I sort of associated it with my dad. Like every time I see my dad, we go and gamble. So gambling makes me feel like I've got that same feeling for KFC. So my dad would always bring a KFC down on a Saturday, and it's my favorite food ever. I love it. I don't even think it's like it's probably 30% because I love fried chicken. It's like 70% that I've got that memory of seeing my dad every Saturday because he'd bring KFC or we'd go and gamble. We do one of those two things. So I do believe that there's like a massive emotional link to the gambling at this age because I associate it with seeing my dad and like being a happy family again.
Yeah, makes sense. I think that the gambling, in the Gamblers Anonymous book, it says, pretty much don't look into why we gamble. I think it's most important that we just need to learn how to stop to gamble. Um, but I do think there's maybe I think during our recovery, it might be worth looking into as to maybe why we gambled, but I think early on it might not be a good idea because I think it could be you can kind of go down a rabbit hole and it could be really overwhelming. And I think that's why it says that in the book. Is it important to know why we gamble? Not really. We just have to learn how to stop.
I'll be honest with you, Jimmy. I hate that line in the book. There's not much of that Gamblers Anonymous book I hate, but I hate that line. I know it word for word. It says, is it important to know why we gamble? And it says, no, not necessarily. I
Mhm.
completely disagree with it. I'm such like, well, I don't want to ruin the ending now of where we're going to go in my story, but like Gamblers Anonymous by itself wasn't good enough for me. I had to dive into why I gambled. I had to do psychotherapy. I had to do rehab. I had to do Gamblers Anonymous and gambling counseling. I had to attack this from all angles. So I had to like dive into all this childhood stuff and all that. And then all that combined helped me finally sort of get on top of it. And then I can use Gamblers Anonymous as maintenance now, sort of thing. But yeah, nah, I'm a big yes, we need to find out why we gambled. Like dive into it, but not as simple as that. I'll get into that later in the story. With what you've just said, yeah, it's not just yeah. Go on, I'll get into it a bit later in the story. But at this point, once it's become obvious, like all my family are aware of how bad it's getting, I was made to self exclude from the free casinos in my city. So again, not my choice. I'm just doing it to please everyone else. And then there was a new casino that opened in New Brighton where I used to go with my dad. I used to either go there or I'd go to the casino in Manchester, again, where my dad lived. That was like the closest one. I've started drink driving at this point. So I worked in a restaurant. I'd finish in the restaurant. I'd go to the pub across the road where my friends worked. The pub was obviously open later than the restaurant. So I'd sit with them for maybe an hour, have a few drinks with them. They'd start to close up. So then I'd say, right, I'm going to drive home, get changed. I'll come back. I'll pick you guys up and then we'll drive into the city. So I'm probably already over the limit at this point when I've had a few drinks with them. I'm driving home, get trained, get changed, come back. And then I'd do that 3 nights a week. And my sister used to say to me like, Daniel, why'd you do it? Stop doing this. I don't want to have to bury my baby brother. And I said, I get away with it. Why wouldn't I do it? Like nothing happens. I said, I promise you, if anything ever happens, I'll stop. This one night, yeah, just that usual routine I've just said. I'd drive home, get changed, I'd come back, pick them up, go into the city, and then I'd drop everybody off at home. So at one point, I've got 6 people in the car. So I'm not only drink driving, I'm driving with an extra person in the car. There should only be 5 in the car. One of the guys lives pretty close to the city centre, so I drop him off, and then me and the other 4, I'm taking us back to my mum's house. My mum's on holiday, so we're gonna have a little after party at my place. And the last little turning on my road, like, is maybe less than a mile, a kilometer long hill, and it's like a windy hill. My last memory is being at the top of that hill, and I've actually got a bottle of rosé wine in my hand as I'm driving. I've took a swig of the rosé wine, then I've passed it to everyone else in the car, and I just remember that left turn. And then I've got no memory of everything else that happened. This is all, everything I'm telling you now is from news reports, from what was on the radio, from what everybody else's statement said. I'm coming down the hill, and this last part of the hill, funny enough, I'll just detour slightly. About 3 nights before, I've done my routine. I've gone to the pub across the road, and I'm with one of the girls from the restaurant, one of the waitresses. And then I've said, like, come back with me to mine. I'm going to get changed, and then we'll go out to the city. So I'm driving back with her, and I am flying down this hill. And she says to me, like, what are you doing? You're going a bit fast. I'm like, what was her name? Laura? I can't remember her name. We'll go with Laura. I'm like, Laura, I do this drive 3 times a day. I've done this drive 1,000 times. I know exactly what I'm doing. And I used to fly down that hill. I used to love it. So this fateful night, I'm coming down this hill, and at some point I've lost control. So off the marks on the road, they could tell that I'd lost control. My back left wheel, like, I'm coming down a bend, it's bending to the right. My back left wheel has hit the curb over on the left side, I've been going that fast that the car has then flipped over onto the left side. So at this point, it's riding down the hill on the two left doors. It's hit another curb in front. It's flipped over onto the roof, slid down a grass verge, and then stopped at the back of a pub. It's hit the back of a pub wall and stopped. Again, no memory of it whatsoever. But everyone's got out the car. I didn't have my seatbelt on. I had my seatbelt behind me. So I fell over into the passenger side. And as it's gone onto the roof, it's actually gone onto a curb, and the curb has gone straight through the driver's side window. And I do believe if I had my seatbelt on, I would have died. That curb would have hit me square in the head, like at whatever speed I was going. So I'm really thankful I didn't have my seatbelt on. But I'm like lying on the roof of the car. Everyone's got out the car because the airbags went off. So loads of like dust or smoke is coming out of where the airbags went off. So everyone thinks the car's going on fire. So they're like, Daniel, you need to get out the car. I'm just lying on the roof, like clutching my knees up to my chest. And they're saying like, Daniel, you need to get out the car. The car's going on fire. And I don't know if it's because I've banged my head, because I'm that drunk, or I just don't know what's going on. But I'm like, it's fine. Everyone just go back to sleep. And they've been like, Daniel, you need to get out the car. And apparently I've got really angry at one of the girls. And I'm like, Nat, you're in my neck of the woods now. I know what I'm doing. Just leave me alone. And I refused to get out the car. The fireman had to cut the doors off the car and pull me out and get me out. The only memory I've got is getting wheeled through the hospital an hour later, 2 hours later, I don't know. And them saying like, who are you? We need to know who you are. We need to contact somebody. And I'm like, I'm nobody. I'm no one. Don't worry about me. I don't want anyone to find out about this. I distinctly remember saying that. I've woke up in hospital the next day and I'm all dazed and confused, and my sister's standing next to me. And like I open my eyes and there's a policeman at the bottom of my bed. And the first words I say to my sister, I'm like, why is there a copper at the bottom of my bed? And she's like, shh, it's okay. You've had a crash. And everything just flooded back to me. I remember where I was the night before, what I'd been doing. I'd been drink driving and my world just sank. It was that same feeling from losing that money on roulette all them years ago. And my first question to my sister is like, how is everyone? How's everyone? There was 4 other people in that car with me. And she's like, it's okay. Everyone's okay. You're the worst one. You've got brain damage in 2 places. And I'm just like, oh my God, like the 2 parts of my brain that I damaged, one of them was the memory part. And the irony is I can't remember what the other part was, but I do, this was 2012. So 14, 15 years later, I do believe it's massively impacted me. My short-term memory is abysmal. And yeah, there's a lot of brain training that I had to do a few months after that. I had to go to this clinic twice a week. But the reason I tell that story, it's not linked to gambling, but it was just, that's how I sort of saw life at that point. It was just like no responsibilities, not taking anything serious, just I'm invincible. I can do what I want. I think like just my ego is out of control at this point. And yeah, just like I do believe I'm just like, I'm invincible at this point, especially because I didn't die in that car crash. That like sent me the feeling that like someone's watching over me. Like, how did I not die? How did I not kill myself? How did I not hurt anybody else? And that sort of gave me this invincibility feeling. And the gambling just went on leaps and bounds from this point.
Yeah, I say it a lot too. Is like with my bar fight, um, it's like our actions other than gambling, we're self-destructing in other ways too. And it from the outside, it looks like it's not connected to gambling, but it is because it's just the whole way that we're living life is self-destructing in every way, and the gambling just, it just doesn't add to it, it just, like you said, it's the ego, it's the irresponsibility, it's the immaturity, it's all the things that go with being an addict.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle, isn't it?
Yeah.
The like how much my life revolved around gambling. My girl, probably 6 months after this car crash now, my girlfriend at the time is going on a girls' holiday. So I'm self-excluded from all the casinos. Everyone knows I'm not to gamble. I drop her off at the airport and literally it's like, right, I'm off the grid now, I'm off the radar. One of the casinos in Liverpool had stopped asking for ID. if you didn't have ID, you were still able to get in. So I thought, I'm self-excluded, but I'll try my luck. I've literally drove straight from the casino to straight from the airport to the casino. I've give a fake name in, and I've got in. And I'm like, yes, here we go. So I've took a selfie in the thing, and like I'm a selfie with all the tables behind me, and I sent it to the boys, and I'm like, tonight's going to be a good night. Gone to the table, started playing a bit of roulette, and all of a sudden this arm just comes over my shoulder, wraps around my neck, and heaves me out of there. It's the manager, who obviously knows who I am because I've been a degenerate in there for the last 6-7 years. Pulls me out, kicks me out, and that was the end of that. When my girlfriend comes back from her holiday a week later, we're sitting on my bed, and I don't know what she was doing. She was on my phone, and obviously she's seen this selfie where I'm in the casino, and she asks me about it, and I've got no words. I'm just like, uh. So she picks up the nearest thing on the bedside table and just throws it at me and storms off. But just to emphasize how much my life revolved around gambling, the thing that was closest to her, the thing that she picked up, was a deck of cards. Like, just everything in my life was gambling. This deck of cards just slapped me in the face, and she stormed off. I've moved so I worked in restaurants. I was the general manager of a Chinese restaurant. I've moved to a different restaurant. I'd always worked for like family restaurants. At this point, I've moved to a chain of restaurants, and I've started handling money. So I'm one of the duty managers. So at the end of my shift, I cash up, I get all the cash, and then I put it into the safe. Once it's in the safe, it can't be taken back out. Like, it's a drop safe. It's in there for good. I've had this idea. Why don't I just keep £1,000 to one side? I'll go to the casino, £1,000 on red or black, depending on whatever the previous colour was, and I walk out there, and then I'm like, I'm going for it. Book a taxi, get the taxi to take me to the New Brighton Casino, the one over the water, because I can't get into any of the ones in Liverpool. And I walk in. I'd always preferred black over red. The last number was black. I was like, right, let's do it. £1,000 on black. Bam. It came in. And for the first ever time, I'm maybe 26, 27 years old at this time. For the first ever time, I stuck to what I said I was going to do. I said I was going to place one bet and I was going to leave. And I did it. I went and cashed out. I think part of the reason I was able to do it is my people pleasing. The taxi was waiting outside for me. I told the taxi driver not to go anywhere, and I didn't want to disappoint him. So I think the people pleasing is that strong. That was part of the reason I was able to walk out. Cashed in my £1,000, got the taxi to take me back to the restaurant. Put the original £1,000 in the safe, dropped it in there. I've got £1,000 for free. Like, genius. What's not to love? What could go wrong? What could go wrong, Jimmy? Maybe a week, 2 weeks later, I've had the same idea. I do it again. It comes in again, and I walk out. I keep the exact same routine. I keep the taxi waiting there for me. I do one spin, it comes in. I walk out, go and put the money back, and off we go. I'm pretty sure I'd gambled those two individual £1,000 that I'd won at whatever point throughout the week. The third time I've attempted this is slightly different circumstances. So I'm out on a night out, and I'm dancing in the club, or so I think I'm dancing in the club. I start to come to. I'm actually halfway up the stairs in the restaurant, and what I'm dancing to is the alarm. I've gone in. I haven't deactivated the alarm because I'm so drunk. I don't know where I am. I'm dancing on the stairs, and I'm dancing to the alarm. Like, the glaring alarm is that's how, like, out of my head I was.
Wow.
So the police come and everything. The other duty managers are called, and they're able to like justify. Yeah, he works here. He's one of the managers. He's been silly. He's drunk. Da 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 da. And the police leave. I don't get in big trouble. But I must have told the other duty managers what I was doing. Like, told them about those two previous times. So they said to me, as long as you go to a Gamblers Anonymous meeting, we won't push this up the chain. This won't go any further. And that was my first ever Gamblers Anonymous meeting, 26, 27 years old. I loved it. I loved it. Like, I remember my very first meeting, somebody said they had 7 years clean. And I just remember wishing, I wish I had his 7 years. But you know what? Now I know his 7 years wouldn't have been any good to me. My gambling journey is completely different to everybody else's. Everybody's got their own gambling journey. Everybody has to go on their own recovery journey. Like I just said at the start, I had to attack this from all angles. Not everyone needs to do that. That's not going to work for everybody else. But I remember so passionately wanting his 7 years and be like, I wish I was 7 years off of it. But now I know that wouldn't have helped me. The reason I'm saying this is for everyone watching now going, I wish I started sooner. Today is the best time you can stop and build that time up, and you'll get to a point where you can look back at it and it'll be a thing. It'll be a thing of the past. It'll be in your rearview mirror. But I loved it. I loved those Gamblers Anonymous meetings. I'd not gamble for maybe 3 months, 4 months at a time. I'd be, you know what, I don't really need to go to meetings anymore. Look, I haven't gambled for 4 months. I can just place a parlay, an accumulator on a Saturday. I can just place a bet on the football. Every single time, the exact same outcome. It would get out of control. 3 months, I'd go back to GA. I'd stop. I'd go back to gambling again. Exact same routine for maybe a year, 2 years. And this one night, I'm 28 years old at this point. I've got a taxi to the New Brighton Casino after a night out, and I've won. I've finished with £10,000. I remember coming home with my two mates. We're in the taxi. The radio DJ that's on, I actually know him. I've got his phone number. I message him and say, like, give us a shout out. We're in the car. We just come back. He gives us a shout out saying, like, Danny and the lads, they've just won at the casino. They're on their way home. And we're like, it's the best night ever, best feeling ever. It's about 7 o'clock in the morning at this point when I get home. My mum's up getting ready for work, and she's like, where have you been? I'm like, I've been out in the casino. And she's like, what? I'm like, look at all this money. And I pull this wad of £10,000 out. I'm like, look at all this money that I've won. And she's like, you've gambled again. I'm like, but yeah, look at this money. And she's like, I don't care. You said you were going to stop and you've gambled again. So that should have been a massive eye-opening moment for me. Because at this point in my life, I'm always with the thought of once I get that big win, I can buy everybody's forgiveness. Everyone will forgive me for all the lies, the deceit, the sleepless nights I've given my mum and my sister. They'll all forgive me because I'll have all this money and I'll be able to buy holiday homes. I'll be able to buy them new cars. In that moment, I should have realized it doesn't matter how much I'm going to win. My mum does not want me to gamble. But anyway, I say, Mum, my two friends are going traveling in 2 weeks. I want to go traveling with them. You hold on to this £10,000 for me. Within that 2 weeks, I take money out the safe in work on this one day. And it's like I've got that safety net in the back of my mind. I'm like, I know my mum's got money for me. So I take money out the safe in work and just go and place a few small bets next door. And then before I know it, I'm chasing. I end up, luckily, there's only £5,000 in the safe. That's all that was in there. I end up losing all of that. I have to call my mum and say, Mum, I need half that money back. I need to put it back in the safe. I go to my mum's work, and again, my mum not being one for discipline, I wind my window down. She just chucks this envelope of cash at me, clearly dead annoyed with me, and walks off. Again, like I don't get spoken to. I don't get told off or anything. And then I go and put the money back in the safe, and all's good. And I still managed to go traveling 2 weeks later with the £5,000 that remained. Those 2 months I went traveling was the best time of my life. Did not gamble once for those 2 months. Went around Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Bali, and then finished off in Australia. As soon as I got to Australia, got to Sydney, I gambled in the casino in Sydney. So I don't know if the reason I didn't gamble for like that first 6-7 weeks of the trip was because it was like third world countries, so the adverts aren't in your face. There isn't a casino on every corner. Or it was because I do believe it was because I was like living life. I was enjoying life. I was living life to the max, like just waking up wherever I wanted to. It was amazing. I loved it. On my second to last night here in Sydney, I met my now wife in a bar in Surrey Hills, a place just outside the Sydney city centre. And I've said to her, I'm like, tomorrow night is my last night in Sydney. Let me take you to the opera. And she's like, it's 2 a.m. on a Friday night, Saturday morning. You'll never get opera tickets now for a Saturday. I'm like, challenge accepted. Give me a number. Come on. End up getting a number. The next morning, I look at opera tickets and I'm like, sheesh, the price of opera tickets. Oh my, how am I going to do this? I managed to speak to my mum and my sister back home, and they send money over. I'm able to buy these opera tickets and take Julie to the opera, my last ever night in Sydney. She's coming to Europe a few months later. I say, don't go to London, come to Liverpool, come and see me in Liverpool. There's much more to do in Liverpool. She comes, we spend a week together, and we really hit it off, and we develop a long distance relationship at this point. In May of 2016, no, before May, maybe February, March, I decide I'm moving to Australia. I'm going to move over to Australia. It's like one of us needs to move. I look up at the grey skies in England and I'm like, I'll come to Sydney. I'll come to Australia. So May 2016, I move over here. I move to Sydney. Before I come, I want to get myself straight. I'm like, I need to get on top of this. I'm fully aware. I'm out of denial now. I'm fully aware I've got a gambling addiction at this point. I need to fix it. So for the first ever time, I see a gambling counselor, and I'm hammering my GA religiously. That gambling counselor opened my eyes to a lot of things, like how much of an anxious person I am. I'm like, am I? And she's like, you were 2 minutes late for the appointment, and look how many times you called me to tell me like how worried you were about disappointing me because you were going to be late. That was like the first sort of understanding that, oh my God, like gambling isn't a money problem. It's like it's a me problem. It's me not being able to deal with life, like all those negative emotions that I keep saying I'm not comfortable with. At this point, I realized gambling was an escape. Like it wasn't just that big win. That big win's going to fix everything. I was using it to try and fix all these other holes that I had in my life, Jimmy.
So it was an escape, and it's an emotional disease.
Yep, 100%,
But
hundred
I was
percent.
one thing I wanted to actually just rewind really quick because I think it's important for the listeners to kind of understand like how this disease also can be it's like an illusion when we're able to stop. You said you were able to stop for I think 7 weeks when you were on your holiday and you traveled all over. And I think that's the disease kinda letting us have the freedom a little bit to make us feel confident that we could, go a short period of time without gambling, and it kinda lets us know, "See, I can do this by myself. I have the willpower to do this." And, it's an illusion, and ultimately, like it says in the book, ultimately, the disease returns. It's there were so many times that I was able to stop for a month, 2 months, 3 months, and then again, think I'm in the clear and I have the confidence, to stop. And realistically, for me. I realize I just cannot do this alone, and um, I come up with a million different types of plans that I'm gonna defeat this, and it failed every time.
Not only that, that period of abstinence, for me, it always gave me the confidence that I can control it. Look, I've chosen not to bet for 6 weeks, 7 weeks, so I can place a small bet because then I can choose not to. But that first bet is the one that gets it out of control again.
Absolutely. All right, so tell me, so now you're hot and heavy with your wife now, and then you're trying to get help, and so what happens next?
You know what? She's that amazing. I get here, I land in Australia in May 2016. She's found the local Gamblers Anonymous meeting for me to attend to. So I've been real upfront and straight with and told her everything and said, I want to get better. She's found the local Gamblers Anonymous meeting. And I just remember thinking in that moment, like, wow, this is a girl I need to stick with. I've told her my deepest and darkest, and she's there supporting me from the get go. And again, did GA maybe 18 months, I think. No, about eight, yeah, about eight, just under 18 months. I abstained. I'm very careful with my words there. I abstained. I didn't recover. I abstained. I just avoided gambling. I just didn't bet. I didn't do any inner work. I didn't work on all that people pleasing stuff that I keep mentioning. I didn't work on finding comfort in the discomfort. It was just like blinkers on. Don't look at gambling. Don't go near gambling. In July, August of 2017, the following year after I got there, I know my family had been talking about this internet money that my brother was buying, and we were all like, what is he doing? What's he putting his money in now? What's internet money? This one night in 2017, I think it was August, I discovered Bitcoin. So it wasn't investing in Bitcoin, it was leverage trading with Bitcoin. So for people that don't know what that means, the easiest way to describe it is I'm not actually buying the Bitcoin, I'm just betting whether it's going to go up or going to go down. And it's not like a trade where it can go down and come back up, depending how aggressively I leverage. Once it drops to a certain amount, I lose everything. Like my money gets taken away and the trade gets cancelled. So it's not like an investment where it can go up and down and you can keep it going for years at a time.
But
And I
ultimately, it's
would
gambling.
yep, I was using 33x leverage. So that means like it multiplied my wins by 33. So if it went up 1%, I made 33% of my money. If it went down 3%, I lost everything. I lost 99%. Once it got to 100%, the trade would get cancelled and my money got taken out. This Friday night, I made about $4,000 on my first night of Bitcoin. And I was like, this is it. There was like a euphoria moment. This is what I was meant to be doing. I wasn't meant to be gambling. It was meant to be Bitcoin. This is where I'm going to make those millions. The very next day, we're going on a hike around the Blue Mountains, this very like scenic place in Sydney. And the Blue Mountains, you can imagine the phone signal isn't very good. So I haven't took that trade out. That $4,000 is still in there. And I'm like walking around. I've got my phone. I've got my arms stretched up in the air like an aerial, like an antenna, trying to get a signal. And I can just see my money dwindling down. I can see Bitcoin like not even dropping that much, probably dropping 4%, which happens within a matter of minutes with Bitcoin. And I'm losing everything. Because I hadn't gambled since I've been in Australia. I had a good credit score over here. I had a full-time employment for the 18 months. I had regular income going into my bank. I had a credit card that I hadn't used. I had a bit of savings. By the time I left the Blue Mountains that day, the credit card was maxed out. The savings were all gone. And that original trade was gone. Just overnight, all came back. Just the addiction just came back. It just transferred from sports betting, horses, pokies, slots, whatever it was. I did every form of gambling. It just transferred into Bitcoin. I was hooked instantly. I wanted that money back. I got approved for a loan off my bank for $25,000. A couple of weeks later, I told them it was for a wedding. And I'm just back on that roller coaster. Like a few days later, I've got $47,000. A few days later, it's down to $12,000. Just that emotional roller coaster, that ride again. For about 6 weeks, 7 weeks, I'm just like back into secretive mode. My wife doesn't know anything about it. By the end of that year, by the end of 2017, so bear in mind, I only started it in August. By the end of 2017, I'd lost $57,000 on Bitcoin, and not all of that was mine. A lot of that was debt that I've now racked up. I had to tell Julie everything. I had to come clean, tell her what's happened. And eventually she said, I'll stick with you. We'll get through this together. However, I now control the finances. I now want to have control of the money. I was like, yep, I love this girl. I'm perfectly happy with that. It'll help me as well. Start going back to my meetings and I started seeing a gambling counselor. Did about 18 months of regular meetings, regular gambling counseling, sort of blinkers on again, not so much doing that much recovery work, just more abstaining. Like I couldn't even watch the Formula One or the UFC because crypto.com has splashed all over it. So I couldn't watch those just because I couldn't be tempted. I didn't do much work. My daughter was born when I was 32, and that was the reason for me to stop going to jails. Like, I'm too busy now. I've stopped for 18 months. I don't need to keep going. Look at this little baby. I remember like the doctor saying, do you want to cut the umbilical cord? And I was like, oh, no, definitely not. And my wife was like, get over there now and cut it. So I had to cut the umbilical cord. And then I remember holding it and I was like, I'm never going to gamble again. Like this little miracle in my arms, this is all I need. I'm never going to gamble again. 6 months later, I realized the debts weren't paid off. I thought we were pretty close to paying off the debts from 2017. They weren't. We still had a fair bit of debt. And that triggered me to go right back into it. Told my wife all these lies, fed her all this, manipulated her into allowing me to put money into Bitcoin again. And again, just chasing. I'd lose that, and then I'd say, like, this credit card, put it in that credit card that we've got. Let me put that money in now because she's controlling the finances, so everything's got to go through her. I'm like, Bitcoin is gonna pop off in the next month. We're gonna treble our money, so it doesn't matter the interest rate that we're paying on the credit card. Let me have that money. I put that in. I lose that. I'm like, I've been approved for this loan. I found this dodgy loan company over here, and I get like a $30,000 loan. I'm like, let me put it in. It's just the exact same again, just chasing, losing, chasing. Like I'm promising her I'm not leverage trading. Promising her we're investing. The few times she would want to see the money, the Bitcoin, I'd be able to feed her enough lies that I'd wear her down and she'd give up needing to see it. But it's just in that desperation mode. It's so fucking lonely, Jimmy. Just nobody knows what's going on. Nobody in the world knows how bad it is. I'm the only one that knows how serious, how much trouble I'm in at this point. And there's this one Friday night, like it's not even my last bet date, funny enough. This one Friday night in, I think it's about April of 2021. And I'm like 6 figures deep at this point with the credit cards, the loans, everything else. And I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning. You know, one thing I never struggled with was sleep. Some people say like all the sleepless nights because of gambling. I never did. Sleep was the escape for me. My life was so horrendous. I was on the verge of a mental breakdown every minute of the day. Going to sleep was just a reprieve from all of that. It was just a break from everything. So I never ever had trouble sleeping. I've always been fortunate in that department. But this one night I woke up at like 2 a.m. and I can't sleep. So I want to pull the Bitcoin charts out. I've still got a bit of money in the account. Julie's asleep next to me, but I don't want her to see my screen. So I go down to the couch, start playing about with the charts. And at this point, I'm using 100x leverage. So 1% up, I double my money. 1% down, I lose everything. Like with Bitcoin, that swing can happen in a millisecond. I'm taking just stupid risks. I'm absolutely desperate. I have this good run. I'm in work at 6 o'clock on the Saturday morning. So I start at 2 a.m. It gets to about 4:35 a.m. and I'm like, I need to start getting ready for work. You know what? I've had a really good run. I've almost got it all back. I'm back into six figures. I'm about $8,000 short of getting it all back. And I remember thinking, once you get this all back, you can stop. You can put everything back and you can fix it all. It's all good. And there was another voice in my head that went, you won't stop. And I just ignored it. So the way I see that now is the addiction speaks to me in my own voice. So that's the addiction speaking at the start. Like you can put everything back. You can fix it all once you've got it all back. But then that
It's
second voice was me going, you won't stop.
it's the biggest bullshit line we could ever tell ourselves. I'm one win away from changing it all and then stopping.
Yep.
Never. It's never enough.
No. But again, I could only realize that. I can only accept that once I come out the other side. So I've gone to work on this Saturday morning and I'm like, I'm licking my lips. I'm like, I'm almost there. I've almost got it all back. I'm on a cloud. That shift just flies by. By the Tuesday afternoon, it's all gone again. Lost it all. Given it all straight back. And I'm just, how the front door have I found myself here again? How have I done this? How I almost had it all together. I almost fixed everything and I'm here again. It's just like, how does this keep happening? I what's my immediate thought pattern? My mum. My mum back in England, she'll be able to help me. So I forgot to mention my wife's pregnant with our second daughter at this point. So I call my mum back in England, 17,000 kilometers away. And I'm like, I can't do this to Julie. She's pregnant with our second child. I'm worried the stress it's going to put on her, the stress it's going to put on the baby. I can't tell her. Can you please give me the money to fix the loan? And then I'll pay the loan off. And I'll tell Julie what's happened in 6 months. When she gives birth to our second child, I'll tell her what's happened. My mum and I guess my sister sort it all out. My mum gets a loan in her name back in England, but then they have to then funnel it into my crypto account for me to then take it out of my crypto account into my bank account. Because if it goes straight into my bank account from my mum, my wife's going to be like, why is it coming from your mum? So I've actually got my whole family manipulated that much that they're able to like be in on this scheme with me. They just think they're protecting my wife who's pregnant. But so I withdraw the money, put it into the bank. Julie sees it's there. I pay off the loan. So I then screenshot that, send it to my family back home, and I'm like, look, loan's all paid off. Everything's good. The next day, I send an email to the loan company and I go, I've made a mistake. I was only meant to make a 1 week payment, but I accidentally paid the whole loan off in full. Can you please reimburse me the loan? I remember the moment they emailed me back a day or two later. I was in work and I got the email saying, yep, no problem. We've put the money back. And I'm just like, yes. So in my mind, in that moment, in my mind, I'm like, I've got that loan back. I can gamble, fix everything, get all that money back and stop. That's what that feeling was to me. Now looking back, I can see that feeling was just, I'm back in action. I'm back in the game. I've got ammunition. I can start firing away again. That's the addiction. I was addicted to the gambling. I wasn't addicted to the winning. I wasn't obsessed with trying to get the money back. I was obsessed with just being in action, that thrill of the bets, that anticipation of waiting for the outcome. In that,
I
not in that moment, looking back, I can see that moment was that amplified.
Yeah, and I think it's important too for the listeners to see how this disease also works when we have these important moments that enter our life, which is getting married or, I'm going to stop when I get married or I'm going to stop when the birth of my child. And you know, that's what's going to make me stop. But at the end of the day, the addiction is so powerful. The addiction doesn't give a shit about your newborn baby, about your new beautiful marriage. It's way more powerful than that feeling of cutting the umbilical cord. The disease doesn't care about that. The disease wants you to think, "Oh yeah, you got it. Don't worry. I'll give you a second child, and maybe that'll make you stop." It's the illusion. It doesn't. You know,
Mhm.
it's powerful than anything in this world, and we think that we're gonna have these big moments in our life. It's gonna, "I'll stop now, stop now. Once I have the kid, I'll stop. Once I do this, I'll stop," and, it's just again, you're just feeding ourselves more and more lies, more and more manipulation, and ultimately, the bets get worse and worse. They never stay
Yep.
the same.
Mhm. It broke my heart that I'd just done that to my mum. My mum had took a loan out in her name back home, and she just bailed me out, and I've just done this to her. Like, well, once obviously lost the loan really quickly. It broke my heart. For a few days, I just carried on like nothing had happened. Like I'm on the verge of a mental breakdown every moment of the day. But again, just that loneliness, that isolation. I'm like, how the fuck do I tell my family I've just destroyed my own world and let everybody down again? And it's just that isolation is the most painful part of it for me. I've I've finally plucked up the courage this one morning. I'm driving to work and I'm like, no. I pull over on the side of the road and I call my mum back home and tell her. And like like I've said throughout, my mum was never one to like let me know she was disappointed or let me know she was angry. And I remember just her being like, "Oh no, love, you haven't." And I was like, "I really haven't." I'm just in the tears, in floods of tears to my mum on the phone. She's like, you need to tell Julie." I'm like, I will when the time's right, I will." And my mum sort of said, like, I don't know what you're going to do. I was like, I'll figure it out. I go to GA, I think it was that night or the next night. And I tell all the boys there, and they're like, you've got to tell her, like, you can't avoid this. It's got to come out." And I did them a deal. It was at 8 p.m. meeting. So it's like 10 p.m. when I'm finished. I did them a deal. I said, when I get home, if my wife's awake, I'll tell her. So bear in mind, my wife's 6, 7 months pregnant. As I'm driving down the road, the whole drive home, I'm like, please, please be asleep. Please, because I get to survive another day. It doesn't change anything. I've still messed up my whole life, my wife's life, my daughter's life, my unborn daughter's life, my family 17,000 kilometers away. I've still fucked up everybody's life, but I can just live in this life for another 24 hours. So I'm driving down, turn right up my driveway, look at the house, every light's off in the house. I'm like, yes, get in there. Another 24 hours of surviving. Get out the car, walk up the steps to the porch, put the key in the door, swing the door open. And the house I lived in at the time was a long hallway when you first walk in, and the kitchen is at the back of the hallway, and the kitchen light was on. I couldn't see that from the front of the house because it's at the very back. And I'm like, oh no. So that maybe 10-meter walk takes me about 40 minutes to walk it. I get into the kitchen, and like as I walk into the kitchen's rectangle shape over to the left. My wife's over at the kitchen sink. I just sit down at the dining table in front of me, and I'm like, "This is something I've got to tell you." And I can't remember how I told her, but I've told her like the situation and how there's no money. Everything's gone. The loans, the credit cards, the savings, everything's gone. And she just turns, like she's facing the sink. She just turns, so she's got her back to the sink. She's like 7 months pregnant. She's huge. Slides down the sink, like plumps to the floor, and just lets out this sound, like this scream. And just me being wanting to be like the protect. Sorry, Jimmy. Me just wanting to be like the protective husband that I see myself as. Like I see myself as this hero of the family, despite all the carnage that I've caused. I'm still that delusional that I'm the protector. I'm the one who's keeping this family together. I push my chair back and go to stand up to run over to her and comfort her, and she just screams at me to leave her alone. Don't come near her. So I just like plump myself back down in the chair, put my head and my hands on the table, and I'm just like, how am I here again? How have I done this again? I just don't know what to do. It's just that hopelessness. I do believe in that moment I found the gift of desperation. It's just like how am I here again? The amount of times I've said I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to stop. How have I got out of control again? And I'm in this situation. Just I could not fathom it. I could not compute. So you'd think she's thrown me out at this point. Next morning, my alarm goes off, and I just want to stay under the covers with all my might. I don't want to go anywhere. But I'm like, I've got a huge amount of debt that I need to pay off now, so I need to get to work. I go to work, I come home, and there's 2 suitcases packed in the hallway. So everyone listening is going to think, yep, she's throwing you out. She's got every right to throw you out. She's that amazing and supportive. She's booked me into a rehab center. She's not throwing me out. She said she needs some space. She's told me to go and live with my uncle. She spoke to my uncle who lives in North Sydney. Go and live with him for, I think it's 8 days, 9 days. And then my rehab starts on the 10th day. I'll go to the rehab center. I complete 3 weeks in a 3-week inpatient program, and I can come back home. I'm like, yes, I want my wife in my life. I want my daughter in my life. I want to be here for my second daughter's birth. Yes, 1,000 times yes, I'll do it all. Go to rehab. I remember thinking my thought process going into rehab is, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to take a pill, and I'm going to be cured. I'm never going to want to gamble again. The first day I get in there, I remember the therapist going, you'll never be able to love your daughter or your wife until you learn to love yourself. And I'm like, what is this hippie shit? I'm like, I don't need to love myself. I'm a horrible, horrible person. Look at all the damage I've done to my family. As long as I love them and I provide for them for the rest of my life, it doesn't matter how I feel about me. I'm like, I'm not here for this. I'm not here for this hippie shit. Oh no. 3 weeks later, oh my God, I am completely turned on my head. That's when I've realized it's not money, it's the emotional stuff. That's when I dug into all the people pleasing stuff, all the how, again, no blame on anyone else. I did all of this, but how not being trained to deal with negative emotions, how my mum always wanted me to be happy, sort of ended up having a negative effect on me. I was able to uncover all of that. That's why I'm so passionate about that question in the Gamblers Anonymous book. Once I uncovered all of that, everything changed for me. I've come out of rehab. My wife and her family are all waiting at the front door. It's like a welcome home party from rehab, like a big banner and everything. I remember my 1-year-old, my wife was holding my 1-year-old, and she's like looked at me like she knows who I am, but she doesn't quite know who I am, because I'd been away for 3 weeks, the longest I'd ever been away from her. And I was like, I never want to do this again. I never want to be away from my children because of something that I've done like this. And within 20 minutes of getting home, my mother-in-law has a list of jobs for me. Like, she pulls out this scroll and it's like, this needs doing, this needs doing, this needs doing. I'm working all the hours under the sun to try and pay off these debts. I've got a pregnant wife. I've got a 1-year-old. Life is just chaos. So I've learned so much in rehab, but I haven't found any time to do any of the work. I'm just like, I've learned it all now. It's like, I've took that pill. I'm cured. I don't need to do anything. 6 months later, I know everyone listening has just rolled their eyes, haven't they? I go back to Bitcoin again. Luckily, I don't do that much financial damage. Obviously, I damage the trust and all of that, but I don't need to go into the details because it wasn't a massive, it wasn't a massive negative. But in that moment, I realized, right, everything I've learned in rehab, I need to be practicing that on at least a daily basis, at least bi-daily, weekly. I need to have the intention to be wanting to do recovery work. I need to recover. I can't just abstain. I've got to do all of this inner work. And that was the 22nd of October, 2021. That was the day it all changed for me. I sort of realized I need to do this for me. So I'll go back to what that therapist said. I need to learn to love myself. I can't do this for my wife. I can't do this for my first daughter. I can't do this for my second daughter. I need to do this for me. I need to want to not live that chaotic lifestyle. I need to want this peace and quiet. And just life has gone on leaps and bounds since stopping gambling. It's so hard at the start. Got all that debt, all that broken trust, all those people that you're ashamed to be around because of all the damage that you've done. But it does get better with time. Time is the only thing. Doing the next right thing, and then that time compounds. So I'm now 4.5 years off a bet, and the trust isn't fully there with my wife. She still controls the finances. Every now and again, I have the thought where I'm like, do I still need to be treated like a child where I don't have a login? I don't have an online login. And I'm just like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It works. Why do I need it? That one time every 6 months when the card gets declined and I'm like, oh, just one sec, I need to ring my accountant. Hello, love. Can you put some money in the account for me, please? That one time every 6 months that happens, it's worth the other 179 days of that extra safety net, that extra protection. So early on, it was all about that protection, putting barriers in place, not going in or near gambling establishments, putting blockers on my phone like Gamban, having my wife control my finances. But then as I do that inner work, as I do that recovery work, as I go to my Gamblers Anonymous meetings, I then learn more. I start to get more comfortable. I start to get stronger. I see my recovery as a muscle and I need to work on that muscle. If I don't do anything for a week, I'm still okay, but that muscle's just a little bit weaker. My mum always told me, if you don't use it, you lose it. So I need to put work into my recovery. Like right now, I still see my psychotherapist once a month. My I don't see my gambling counselor anymore, but that helped me understand so much. It like helped me zoom out and see the bigger picture. He drew this chart once, and I started up in the top left corner of the chart, and then it just started coming down, and then there'd be a little bump up, and then it'd start coming down, and then there'd be a little bump up, and I was like, "What's that?" And he's like, "That up the top is where you started at 12 years old. This down here is where you are now. You can go and have a win, and it'll put a little bump in the chart. It'll have a little lift, but it'll be swiftly followed the same as every other time by a massive drop." And that helped me zoom out and see it doesn't matter if I go and win £10,000 tomorrow, £20,000 tomorrow. I'm never getting that money back that I've lost. That money is gone. It's never coming back. And I also see my addiction as something I had to go through. So now, 39 years of age, I am the best version of myself that I've ever been because I've done all that work. The reason I've done all of that work is because I had to go through that addiction. So I see all that pain, all that misery, all that suffering, and all those finances as an investment in becoming the person that I am today. The person sitting here with you now, Jimmy, is the best dad that he's ever been, the most supportive husband that he's ever been, the best son that he's ever been, the best sibling. And I'm really proud of where I am today and the life that I've got now.
And like I always say, one of the one I really believe it helps me stay in present is you're exactly where you're supposed to be and you always have been. You know, what we do today is really dictates what our future is going to be. Um, the one question I want to ask is like you were in and out of Gamblers Anonymous so many times, and you said I have to really put in the work. What did you do differently this last time, the last 4.5 years, than you did all the other times where you kind of were in and out? What was the things that you did differently?
Exactly 4.5 years ago, I did 90 meetings in 90 days. I got COVID at the end of it. So I think I hit about 83 meetings in 90 days. That helped me find my tribe. So not every one of those meetings worked for me. Every meeting that I've been to is a little bit different. Different people, different structure. Sometimes you get topic meetings. Sometimes it's just what's on your mind meeting. So doing all of those meetings helped me find the meetings that I really liked and find the people that I really relate to. So I live in Australia now. I do online Gamblers Anonymous meetings now. I do maybe 2 or 3 a week. None of them are in Australia. So I do meetings at like 5 a.m. because they're back in England. They're 8 p.m. in England, but they're the ones I relate to the most because they all gambled the same way I gambled. So I can relate to them more than I related to the people in the Australian meetings or the people in the American meetings. But then I've also got an American meeting that I do each week because I love the people in there. I've built up a relationship. I used to call it my recovery community that I've built up, but they're friends. People are friends now in these meetings. Like I've built that stronger connection. They get me because they've done similar things to me. But like I look forward to the meetings now. I look forward to catching up and seeing how their week's been and telling them about my week. And if I've had a shit week or I've had something to do with gambling, it's very rare that I ever speak about gambling in these meetings. But if I do, I know they're going to understand me. And I know there's going to be 1 or 2 people that are going to sort of give me a little bit of advice from their experience. And that'll help me. I'll be able to take something out of their share. So just finding the meetings that worked for me at the start and then continuously being consistent with those meetings helped me build the relationship with those people that I now look forward to catching up with those people each week.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because early on, when I was in and out of the rooms for 8 years, I used to say, okay, I have these are my personal friends, these are my GA friends.
Yeah.
And when I started working recovery, I was like, this is my family.
Yeah, amazing. I love it.
This is my family, you know? Um, it's like so many times I've, had difficult situations, and like I wouldn't even go to my family and ask for advice or talk to them. I'd go to the people in the rooms because these people see me every week. They hear my they hear my deepest and darkest secrets sometimes, and they really know who I am. I appreciate. I've always had family and friends, open to helping, and hey, if you ever need anything, and I've used them sometimes, but just something about this community and fellowship that's just it's just hard to explain. It's like it's like going to war with somebody, and like the person next to you is like ready to save your life. It's the most incredible thing in the world to me.
Yeah, like being around like-minded people as well. Like you say,
Yeah.
I get that love from my family, and they're always there for me. And my wife is, but she doesn't understand the thoughts. Maybe if I ever had an edge that week, she doesn't understand how are you still getting an edge when all the damage you done. Whereas everyone else in the meeting understands why I'm getting an edge, and yeah, it's just you can connect. I was going to say on a deeper level, a different level. I can connect with my family on that deep level of love. I can connect with people in the rooms on that deep level of being like-minded, being like me. So it gives me something different.
And you're able to, I think, also the one of the most powerful ways to connect with another human is to be vulnerable,
Yes.
and that's what allows this what these that's what allows these meetings, brings that out in us, to be vulnerable. And I think it's you know, men are not really, technically men aren't supposed to be these like crying type of people. They're supposed to be these strong, but I think being strong, and we say it's a superpower, is being vulnerable. That is powerful on its own, to be able to do that. Um, for a couple things, and then we'll close out the podcast. So tell me about your the podcast you started. Tell me how it all began. Your first thoughts. Go from there.
I'm just gonna go back to the crying thing first. Mate, I'm a big softie now. Like my two daughters are 4 and 6, so I think it sort of falls in line with that, them being born as well. But I cry at absolutely everything now like that. I was strong before a couple of maybe 10 or 15 minutes ago. I nearly went, but I kept my professional head on. But one moment that like stood out was every second year we try and go back to England. We try and fly back to England because I've got such a big family there. I love my girls being around that family. The year in between, my mum comes here in the January for a few weeks. And 3 years ago, 5 years ago, one of the trips, like I say, me and my mum never comfortable with negative emotions. We get to the airport and my two daughters have fell asleep. So my wife's like, I'll stay in the car with the girls, let them have a little sleep. You go in with your mum and just have a chat with your mum, have a goodbye chat, and then I'll follow in. We're like an hour early for the plane anyway, before my mum has to go. She's like, I'll follow in half an hour. So me and my mum sit down at the bar and we just start having a talk. And we're both crying our eyes out at like how sad we are that we're leaving each other now. We're not going to see each other for 11 months, but just the two of us crying together was amazing. I loved that moment. Like I'd never had that moment. I'd never been comfortable being vulnerable around her and here with me. I loved that we were both so open and so tearful together. And yeah, like the best part of recovery is you get your emotions back, but the worst part is you get your emotions back as well. But I love that I'm a big crier now, a big softie. So my gambling counselor, he always told me I should write a book. Like I'd come into the sessions, he'd be sitting there with his legs crossed and have a bowl of popcorn, and he's like, "Daniel, what stories have you got for me this week?" And I'd have him in stitches, like getting arrested driving an electric scooter on a Friday night with two phones playing Pokemon Go. I'd have him in stitches, and he's like, "You need to write a book." That was always so overwhelming. The thought of writing a book. I'm not very illiterate, and eventually I was like, you know what, a good go-to would be a good in between, like starting. It wasn't supposed to be a podcast originally. It was supposed to be me just sharing my experience, just talking head videos, and that's what it started out as. It took me about 6 months to press record. Just that fear of judgments, that fear of putting myself out there, the pain of watching myself and listening to myself. Like I can hear myself in my headphones here as I'm talking, and every word is painful still. 18 months later. But I did my first podcast about 6 months in, one of the ladies from my GA group, and I really enjoyed it. It was like Gamblers Anonymous on steroids. Like you hear someone share for 5, 6 minutes and you get a bit of connection with them. When we do these podcasts, we listen to someone for an hour and a half, 2 hours. And I just feel so connected. That vulnerability and connection you spoke of, I get that in spades from the podcast now. Don't get me wrong, it hasn't replaced anything. I still do all my meetings. I still do my psychotherapy. I still have all that on the side. But this helps me so much in my recovery, along with just getting those messages, getting a message from someone like, thank you. Your stories inspired me. I'm on day 16. Just reading things like that. Just like, I feel I've found my true purpose now. I hope my wife doesn't watch this because I always say this. The only thing I was ever passionate about was gambling. Now, the only thing I'm passionate about is recovery. And my wife and 2 kids as well. I'll whisper that bit. But mate, I just love it. I like it. I live and breathe this stuff now, and just getting that connection. Even just sitting here with you now, and it's me telling my story, but I feel so connected to you because we did your story a few weeks ago, like you said. So just we'd never have even met each other if neither of us had lived the life that we did. And now I just feel so connected with you, and we speak outside of this as well. And I love that connection. I love what it gives me, as well as being able to help others along the way.
Yeah, it's really incredible. I always say too, I never would have met any of these people if it wasn't for my gambling addiction. And these people are some of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life, you know, and just now getting into because for the first year of my podcast, I really kind of, I didn't have any social media. I had no, I didn't have Instagram or nothing. Now that I'm on that, like I'm starting to get more and more, in the public eye a little bit, and it's, but it helps me, build more relationships and meet new people like yourself. And it's been incredible. I'm meeting more and more. There's a lot of people in life who are like, I don't need any new friends. I have all my friends. I'm just like, no, that's the wrong way to look at it. Like, there's so many more amazing people that can enter your life if you just stay open. And it's been really amazing meeting people like you. And I'm really thankful for all the work you're doing. So tell me some things you learned about the podcast too, or what you're doing moving forward, or things you've learned. Anything?
Similar to yourself, I was never a big social media guy, so that's the painful part of it. I love the interviews, I love the edit, and I love bringing it all together, creating the story and creating the thumbnail. And so I'm more on YouTube than the actual podcast bit. I love creating the thumbnail, the titles, putting it all together, the packaging. But the just I can't emphasize enough that connection and that vulnerability that I get from it. I love that. But then the next step I sort of want to go to now is face-to-face interviews. And I haven't actually announced this on my channel yet, so this is an exclusive, Jimmy. I'm giving you an Addicted Recovery exclusive. July of this year, I'm heading over to America for 2 weeks. I'm going to meet some amazing people that I've chatted to along the podcast journey that I've been on, and I'm going to be going to the National Conference of Problem Gambling in Tennessee. So
I'll see you there.
we'll stay in touch, and yeah, I can't wait to be face to face with you.
I think when I get off the podcast right now, I'm gonna go sign up for it because I've been holding off on it, but I'm like, okay, I have to do it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting you. That'd be great.
Awesome.
Well, the one
Awesome.
question I wanted to ask you too, you're from, well, you live in Australia, but you're from the UK, correct?
Yep.
So is there any differences? Because I think in the UK, gambling's been legalized longer than it has in the US, correct?
Like I say, I was gambling on slots, on fruit machines at 11, 12 years old, and that was allowed. Yeah.
Wow. So have you seen have you seen any like differences, or have you seen when it started to become legalized in America, were you able to be like, okay, like I see where this is going. It's going the same way it was going in the UK for so long.
Yeah, there was never that big jump for me because, like, I was doing it from 8, 9, 10 years old, and it was legal. Whereas in America, you can see the line between it not being legal and it becoming legal. You can see that change and how bad it's getting. I do believe it's an epidemic. It's just worldwide, not just in America. It's so in your face everywhere. But over here, specifically in Australia, every pub has a VIP room. So the VIP room consists of, depending on how big the venue is, anything between 20 to 200 slot machines. And that is in the pub. And every pub has 16 TV screens, has every horse race and every dog race going on. and there's a machine there where you can actually place the bets. So in England, that's not allowed. You have to physically leave the pub, go into the bookmakers. Most bookmakers will be next door to a pub. They're very clever because alcohol mixed with your inhibitions getting lowered makes you gamble worse. But over here in Australia, it's really bad. It's not so much the sports betting, it's the machines, the slot machines, the fruit machines, the pokies, they're called over here. It's really bad. Like, I didn't know when I moved here. Australia has the biggest losses per capita in the world. Second is Singapore, and Singapore is like 60% less than this. That's how bad Australia is. But I'm fortunate that slot machines were a thing for me when I was 11, 12, 13 years old. They've never tempted me since I've been here.
There's a like a tradition question that I ask at the end of each podcast. Do you think your wife will listen to this podcast, or she's heard your stories too many times?
I do. I think she surprises me time to time and goes, "Oh, I enjoyed the episode," and I'm like, "Oh, she's still listening." So yeah, I think she probably will. Yeah.
Okay, so if she listens to this episode, is there anything you would like to tell her, or anything you'd like for her to know?
Oof, big one, Jimmy. Damn you, getting me right at the end.
Take your time.
I just would like, I'd say that I'm sorry for everything that I put her through. Like, it's not the first time I'm saying sorry, obviously, but I, I don't think there's enough times that I could say it that would ever make up for the damage that I did. Like, we've been married since 2018. It's now 2026, and we were officially out of debt about 2 or 3 months ago. So for our entire marriage, we were in debt because of me. So we don't have the house that I'd like to give her. Like I spoke about when I wanted to go straight over to her in the kitchen that time, I always saw myself as that provider, as that, it's like that macho man. My wife stays at home. My wife doesn't have to work, but she has had to work because of all the damage I've done. She loves working, but she loves her job. She loves what she does. She's very passionate about it. But she has had a tough go of it with raising 2 kids and having a gambling addict as a husband. And for the last 4.5 years, I do believe she can see a different person, and the trust is coming back. And I do believe we are the happiest we've ever been right now in this moment. And like she said to me the other week, one of her friends had their house knocked down and rebuilt. And she said, "Do you think we'll ever have a house like that?" And I said, I do still have the intentions of being able to provide a house like that for us. Like, whenever I'm with my daughters, I always go, "Look at that house, look at that house." And my daughters keep doing it at 4 and 6. They're like, "Look, Daddy, that house looks lovely." And every time it is a little bit of a kick in the gut that I haven't been able to give my wife that at 39 years old. But I do still strive that one day I will be able to buy or build the house of our dreams and give that to my family.
Most importantly, you're able to give her the best riches in life, which is you being a present father, a present husband, a present son. I think that's very important, most of
Yeah,
all.
if I've made her sound superficial, in that I completely didn't mean to do that. Yeah, no,
You didn't at all.
that's the important stuff. But like, just that on the side, I have always wanted to be able to give that to them. But there's a thing with Rangan Chatterjee, and it said, like, "What are your goals for this week? What are your goals for this month? What are your goals for this year?" And it said, "What are your goals at the end of your life?" And it's like, you should work backwards. You should figure out what those goals are, and then they should determine what they are for the next year, what they are for the next month, what they are for the next week. And the two main goals for me were being an amazing dad and being a supportive husband. So that made me realize, like, where the important stuff lies in my world, where my passion should really be each week, each day, each minute. And like I said before, I do believe I had to go through all that pain and I had to go through that addiction to become the person I am today. And most of the stuff I do is now rooted in either trying to be that dad to my girls or trying to be that supportive husband to my wife. So yeah, they are the main things. But a little side hustle, I'd love to be able to provide that house for my family.
Absolutely. All right, last question. Let's move this on to your mother. If your mother was able to listen to this podcast, what would you tell her?
I love you. She she every phone call we have, she tells me how proud she is of me, of where I am in life today. I'm laughing to try and mask the emotion underneath. The Just that moment in the airport of crying with my mum was just so magical. Like, there's nothing I wouldn't do for my mum. It's just that unconditional love. Like, the love I've now got for my family, for my two daughters and my wife, is all because of the love that my mum showed me. She taught me family is the most important thing. It's so hard being 17,000 kilometers away from my family, and my mum is the best mum in the world, and she's just amplified that as a nan to my two girls. And it kills me that two of her three grandchildren are 17,000 kilometers away and she can't be with them every day of the week. It kills me that she's so far away because I know how much she loves being that motherly figure and that nan. And she's just amazing. Seeing her when she's here for that 6 weeks, 5 weeks, just seeing her with my two daughters, it's like she's a nan on steroids because she's making up for 11 months of not seeing them. And I love it. I love that she's my mum. I wouldn't change her for the world. I couldn't have asked for a better mum, Jimmy.
Amazing. And again, I appreciate you telling your story. That's why I love doing these podcasts too. Is when we're in meetings, we hear a person's story maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and the person kind of has to give it out really quick. But these podcasts allows the person to kind of share their entire story, and we get to learn more about the person too. And I think there's something to that, and that's another reason why I love doing the podcast. And um, listen to your story today. I feel like God really protected you in that car accident, and God protected you with your recovery. Um, because he knew that you were going to uh, be able to help people one day with their addiction. I truly believe that. So, God has your back, and He has my back, and I think it's we're going to work together to really try to help as many people as we can, because it is an epidemic, and now that it's legal in the United States, it's tenfold, and I'm very grateful that you're in my life now. So thanks for everything you do, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you in July.
Oh, wait, Jimmy. I knew you wouldn't give up until you got that vulnerability out of me and you got those tears. Well, you got it at the end. Well done.
All right. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it, and we'll talk soon.
Definitely. Thanks, Jimmy.
All right. Bye. If you or someone you know is struggling with gambling, help is available. You can call 1-800-GAMBLER for support and resources. I'm Jimmy M, and I'm a compulsive gambler.